So the text that I sent out this morning said intentional. And this really is what we're going to talk about today is living with intentions, living on purpose, deciding what it is that we want in life and then moving towards that and doing the things that are ours to do to make those visions come true. This power of intention is really so powerful we don't many times even understand. There are a lot of intentions in our mind, and those intentions that come easily and really come first are probably the ones that we need to examine and possibly discard, because the small part of ourself, the insecure part of ourself, the fearful part of ourselves, which really isn't real, but kind of like an identity that we've pulled on, that are these intentions that are generated by the ego will really not lead us to any kind of fulfillment and definitely not to a happy life. But they come first because that part of us is afraid. That part of us believes that we are separate from our good, separate from each other, separate from and in conflict with the world itself, and apart from God. And so, of course, it generates a lot of fearful ideas about what we need to do to protect ourselves from what seems to be a very dangerous place, the place where we live. That the threat is there, and so the ego keeps saying, well, we'll do this, we'll do that to get what we need, to get what we want, we'll do that, and we'll do this to protect what we have. And it continually leads us to suffering. And it then also contributes to the suffering of others. Not that we can make them choose suffering, but generally that's the outcome, is we suffer and we take anybody along who's willing to go. And so today what I want to talk about is having stronger intentions, larger intentions that are in alignment with God's will. You know, at the beginning when we say this affirmation at the beginning that in one spirit we see good everywhere, we used to say in one spirit we see God everywhere. But that's the same thing. That's what we're talking about. So when we say good, we are saying God. I mean, it's the same. Here we're talking about the same idea, and so this then is an intention. This affirmation that we say is a strong intention. It is an intention that is really not the kind of intention that the ego wants for us. The ego wants to distract us and keep us, and this is how those thoughts, those small thoughts, which many of us call self-centeredness, again, which many of us have seen is actually the core of our problem in life. Those small thoughts continue to generate these like patterns that we spin from one thought to the next that leads us over and over again to feelings of lack, to feelings of fear, to a sense of disconnection from the world, which then in turn keeps the pattern repeating that proves it. So when we get caught up in that kind of thinking, we're continually convincing ourselves of really, and what I want to say this morning is, however you feel about it, it's not true. These thoughts are not true. These thoughts, the thoughts that the small self presents to us are lies, but they keep trying to lead us to a place where they give us evidence that they are true. And so we kind of set ourselves up in a position where we keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again, expecting different results. And many of us know what that means. That means insanity, fragmentation, brokenness. And so we have to, somewhere along the line, if we want to stop suffering, we have to decide for something grander, something larger, something bigger than our own small self. And when we decide that, and when we start to move in that direction, we begin to become aware that there is something within us that is greater than that self-centered concern. That there is something within us that is greater than our personality, greater than our problems. Actually, something within us that is greater than all of the problems in the world. And we become aware of that by getting quiet and releasing those thoughts of fear. By getting quiet and releasing, letting go quietly, peacefully, each one of those thoughts that points to the error that we think we're alone. So the 11th thing that I tell myself every morning is, through the power of divine vision, I see mission and purpose, and I'm energized to carry it out. So this quietness, this practice of meditation, of getting quiet, reveals to us what our mission, what our purpose is. Reveals God's will for us. Now here's the thing about God's will, and many of you heard me say this before, is that I can tell you in generalities what God's will is for all of us. And in generalities, it's like this. God's will is for love. God's will is for us to extend love and to give service. For all of us. It is what we are designed to do. To extend love and give service. Now, what I can't tell you is the specifics. I cannot tell you what your day is supposed to consist of. I can't tell you each step along the way what God's will is in that regard. I can't tell you that, and I have a sense of this, I don't know for sure, but I don't even think that God's will has anything to do with your profession, your job, what you do for a living. I don't think God has any concern about that whatsoever. But what the point, the will, the concern is for that no matter what you do, no matter what your job is, that you give service in that job, that you give love, that you are helpful. And that when we do that, good occurs. And the more we do it, the more we feel good. The more we feel God. So this is really so here are the two questions. These are like these huge questions. I don't have to find it because I remember these are the questions that have been asked by mankind forever. The first question is, who am I? Who am I? Who am I really? So who you are is, now I'm just going to suggest it. You don't have to accept it if you don't want to, but I really believe it, and I hope you can believe it, at least for a moment. You are child of God. You are a creation, son, daughter of God. You are pieces of God. And that's the problem, is that we've broken ourselves into pieces. We've broken ourselves off into pieces of God and forgotten that really, in reality, we are one with. And so this is your identity, and this is our shared identity. Children of God. And so thinking about that and just getting a sense of what that means, it's like, okay, so if that's who I am, why would I have to act like anything else? Why would I feel the need to put on airs? Why would I feel the need for any kind of pretense? Why would I have to have some identity crisis? If I can remember that really I'm a child of God, shouldn't be a problem. I shouldn't have to go around masquerading as something other than what I am. So just something to consider anytime that you're asking yourself, you might not even hear the thoughts like right out, but that you get that tendency to want to get the approval of others, looking for acceptance, looking for somebody to see you in a better light. I guess the question is, why am I trying to act this way? I already am this. And then to recognize, not only am I this divine child, so are they. And then the second question is, why am I here? This is like the gigantic philosophical question, of the ages. Why am I here? And what Course in Miracles says about it is, I'm here to be truly helpful. I'm here to be truly helpful. I'm here to do the will of Him who sent me. And I don't have to worry about what to do or what to say. He who sent me will direct me. And this is the crux of it and the key to it, because there's too much activity in my brain trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. So, okay, now I'm going to accept the fact that I'm supposed to be of service. I'm going to accept the fact that I'm supposed to be helpful. Okay, I'm going along with the program. And at first I might accept that as just because somebody said I was going to feel better. Somebody said I was going to feel good. Somebody said I'm going to be able to, that guy on Sunday said that I'm going to, not suffer so much. So, okay, I'm going to go along with the idea. And then what happens is the brain starts working on it and it says, okay, what am I supposed to do to be helpful? Well, that's not helpful. Because we get obsessed. We start thinking, and then we start worrying, well, if I do this, will that be okay? If I do that, will that be okay? Well, the secret to it is to be quiet. Shut up. Stop thinking so much. And this is really the issue. All of these thoughts that are crowding into our minds actually keep us from hearing the voice for God, which is what is trying to tell us, what is trying to guide us into doing what it is that we're supposed to do. And so the solution to that is to learn how to be quiet. And this is why it is suggested in many spiritual disciplines that we set a time aside every day so we can begin to get quiet. And as we do it and as we keep practicing it over and over again, it gets easier and easier to quiet the mind, to quiet that chatter that's continually going on. And if we really examine, before we even start to get quiet, we can do this. Just examine the thoughts of your mind. Just watch what happens and then try to track back and say, okay, this crazy thought comes to mind, and then track it back and say, okay, where'd that come from? And you can see one thought triggered another, and the pattern soon becomes apparent that I keep running on this track of, and we all have different tendencies, so we'll all find like different patterns. But we'll see that these thought patterns repeat over and over again. And what I want to say this morning is that's by design. The ego is trying to maintain its life. And so the way it does that is it makes us keep thinking thoughts over and over again that distract us from the truth. The truth that we're a child of God. That we don't have to worry. That we don't have to be afraid. That we can just extend love and everything's going to be fine. These thoughts keep telling us everything's not going to be fine. Not only is everything not going to be fine, everything's not fine right now. Not only are things not fine right now, but they're probably going to get worse. But so we learn to be quiet and to release those thoughts. And this thing about to get quiet and to start and just observe the thoughts as they come. Don't fight them. Don't get all worked up over it. Just observe the thought and then let it go. Just let it go. Another one's coming, don't worry. The next one that comes, just observe it and let it go. Some people have the practice of what they do is they bless it. They just kind of, instead of being upset about it, they just kind of let it give it a blessing and say, okay, you can go on your way. Another practice is to just visualize yourself sitting by the bank of a stream, and there's trees on the other side, and you see from time to time a leaf will fall and slowly drift down, and it'll settle on the water and just flow away, and let that be your thought. You don't have to jump in the stream to grab the leaf. Just let it just flow away. And if you establish this, and there's many different techniques to do this, but the idea is to get to the place where you can be quiet. And we've talked about ways to begin. The way you begin is you sit in the chair and you don't do anything. You just decide, I'm going to sit in the chair for 5 minutes, I'm not going to do anything. Your mind may be running riot, and what your mind tells you is, I can't sit in the chair for 5 minutes. I got to get up and go. Now sit in the chair for 5 minutes without the TV on, okay? Without anything. I mean, some people find that music is relaxing, but even after a while, to just be silent, just to have the silence, and then grow that 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 minutes, and pretty soon you won't have to be conscious about growing the time. Because one day you'll realize that you've been sitting there for 30 minutes and it didn't even seem like a strain, and that you actually felt connected to life. And look, here's the problem here is that we just can't snap our fingers and decide that we're going to be quiet, that we're going to be prayerful, that we're going to, we just can't out of the blue decide that we're going to be loving, because we can do it by intention. We can act in kind manners. We can act the way we think someone who is loving would act, by our intention, by our will, and just hold on with both hands. But when pressure is applied, we will revert back to that ego thinking. Now, we will revert anyway, but what happens when we actually practice and get quiet is we are able to, in a moment of stress, be quiet. By intention, by deciding, let me get quiet here for a moment before I react. And when we get quiet before we react, we find that we have the ability to interact, come together for common welfare, for extend goodwill, to be of goodwill, to be of God's will. So here's what we know about why we are here. We are here to be helpful. We are here to be truly helpful. And this is the only thing that we have to remember. We don't have to make a list of stuff that we're supposed to do to be helpful. All we have to do is remember, my purpose is to be helpful. And so now I'm deciding my purpose. It's actually not a purpose that I gave myself. There's a purpose that was assigned to me when I was created. I'm just going to accept that that's my purpose. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the intention of following my purpose. I'm going to intend to do it. And that's it. I don't have to worry about anything else, because that's what the instruction says. I don't have to worry about anything else. Now, what Jesus says about this idea is the Pharisees trying to trip him up because they think he's preaching against the law. They come and they ask him about the law. And he says, this is what the law is. The law is like this. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy mind, with all thy soul. And the second is like unto it. Love thy neighbor, love thy brother as thyself. So, think about God as being the all of everything. If you can just get a vision of your mind as the entire system of life, the whole universe, as much as you can encompass that in your mind, think about God as being all of that and more than you can imagine. But the essential point is that God is life, that God is light, that God is love, and that this is so I'm going to love that. What this instruction means is to love life, not just to love our own small life that we're trying to have by ourselves, but to love all of life, and to have that and to cherish that. So this is the first law: to love life, to love. So So then the second is, love thy neighbor, love thy brother as thyself. So it says then that, and he says, it is like unto it, which means it's the same. If you want to quibble about it, you could say it means it's the same in some way. But it really doesn't matter. So you love, so that, then he says, so that is your neighbor, but not just your neighbor, as yourself, because you can't extend to your neighbor what you can't extend to yourself. So all of this is about extending and what love is first the sense of connection. So here, if I'm loving God, it seems very abstract and very remote, and I don't understand, and I can't get the whole picture of it in my mind. But here's what I can understand. I can understand loving life. I can understand loving the life that thrills in me. And I can observe that same life all around me. And so I want to feel connected to all of that life. And then the second part of love is desiring only good to come, no matter what. And this is the unconditional part. The unconditional part, what really makes it love, because if it's not unconditional, it's really not love. And so most of the time we're not experiencing unconditional love because we're putting all these requirements on everything in order for us to love it. But to desire only good to come no matter what, no matter how the other person acts, no matter what the circumstances are. And so this is perfection, see? That sense of love is perfection. The sense of connection and the desire for only good to come to all life. This is perfection. We will not be perfect all the time. If we were perfect all the time, we would not have to practice. So, but the problem is, the small mind says, well, you can't do this.